know you're sitting there and you're going, okay, that sounds great, Secure. I love it. It sounds like something I would want to use. When are you going to tell me how to do it? Well, in just about 30 seconds, I'm going to show you how the cycle of perpetual paradigms is impacting your life. And I'm going to show you how my CEOs and future CEOs have used this method to break out of that cycle, to start to have explosive growth, and to get the results that they wanted. And you can do it too. You see, right now, you think you know how your brain works, don't you? You think that you know what the conscious mind is and the subconscious mind is and how they all work together. But do you really? Probably not. Because if you did, wouldn't you be getting the results that you want? Wouldn't you be consciously utilizing your brain to create the results in your life that you want so you can have an exceptional life? So, let's get started. Let me tell you about the cycle of perpetual paradigms. First, let me say I did not create it. It was based in many hours of intensive brain training and behavioral training from my mentors and my coaches, some of whom I've read all of everything that they wrote, especially Dr. Wayne Dwyer, John Assaraf, Dana Wilde, Lisa Nichols. I've sat down with these people and I've spent countless hours with Bob Proctor, with Christine Closure, with Les Brown, with all of the premier motivational and personal development trainers, including Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins, to understand what it really takes to transform. Because it's one thing to give you information, but information is not transformation. And what we're trying to do is transform your brain into a tool to create that which you want. See, the cycle of perpetual paradigms will not only help you to understand what you're thinking, why you're thinking it, and how you're thinking, but it'll also help you to step off or jump off or break through that cycle. You see, we're all made up of a multitude of habits. And these habits are what we call paradigms, repeated patterns of behavior. That's what paradigms are. And the paradigms are made up of these underlying beliefs and habits that we've done over time. Each of us have ideas and thoughts in our head. And those ideas and those thoughts are what create the group of paradigms that show up as behaviors in our lives. These beliefs are formed in our subconscious mind. You know, you have the conscious mind and you have the subconscious mind. These beliefs sit in our subconscious mind and determine how we will behave in specific situations, what we believe about the situations, and how we internalize the circumstances and the experiences in those situations. You see, your subconscious mind is like a magnet. Its job is to take in all that you think about and then attract to you the missing pieces so that you can form the thought that you had in reality. The subconscious mind as a magnet has both positive and negative. So you can have positive thoughts and you can have negative thoughts. And if you have positive thoughts or negative thoughts that you consciously think, they move to your subconscious and create positive situations and negative situations, positive beliefs and negative beliefs. And the subconscious mind in its magnetic form goes out and pulls in those missing pieces, like a piece of a puzzle, those missing pieces to create your reality, no matter what it is that you think. whether it be positive or whether it be negative. So the ideas that we have about our world, the ideas that we have about ourselves, that we then internalize because we repeatedly think them, then create our reality. Because those beliefs, imagine this, sit in your subconscious mind. And when you repeatedly think them, you start to feel some emotions. And when you start to feel these emotions, they get cemented. The emotions are the cement. They're the glue that hold those big pieces that you go out and collect, that your subconscious mind goes out and collects. The emotion is the glue that cements it to your subconscious and makes us believe it to be true. So then, as we start to believe it, we start to see the world around us based on those beliefs, even if they're false. And the funny thing is, most of the time the beliefs aren't even ours. Because as children, we come up in the world based on other people's beliefs, and so those beliefs, we become our own. We believe they are, at least. See, Neville's law of assumption says that if something is assumed and is persisted until it becomes part of your feeling, the dominant feeling, then the attainment of your ideal is possible. Let me read that again. Let me say it so that you can get it. If the assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. And for our subconscious mind, it doesn't matter, good or bad. The more we repeat these circumstances and experiences, the more solid our beliefs become, which form the habits and cement the paradigms in our lives. Again, paradigms are repeated patterns of behavior which form the beliefs which we tell ourselves. Now I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about the beliefs that you have. The beliefs that you believe to be true about your business and about your life. If you have a repeated pattern of behavior that forms a paradigm, then the results that you're getting, good or bad, are based on those repeated patterns of behavior. For example, if you get up every day at 7 and you go to work at 10 and you sit there till 11 and you really don't do anything till 12 o'clock, and then you work for 3 hours and then you complain for 2 hours and then you leave at 5 and you sadly drive home, and you're starting to repeat those behaviors every day over and over and over again, you're going to get those results based on those repeated patterns of behaviors. Those are the paradigms, the cycle of perpetual paradigms that are showing up in your life. And we all know, what's the definition of insanity? I say it is knowingly doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. So if our beliefs become fact based on the fact that we continually repeat them, and we continually repeat the behaviors which become the paradigms, how do we expect to get different results? So let me ask you again, what beliefs do you hold as fact that are just not true? For example, working my business is a chore. Marriage turns you into a boring person. Time is money. Once you're an adult, it's all about responsibilities and no fun. Only exceptional people live exceptional life. This is the cycle of perpetual paradigms. When you repeatedly form thoughts into beliefs in your subconscious mind and build the circumstances and the behaviors which will create the results that you get. So, what I want you to do now is just take a moment. Now, you've been thinking about these beliefs. I want you to write down 5 what you would consider limiting beliefs that you have about your business, and then I'll show you the cycle of perpetual paradigm. From working 12 to 16 hours a day and not making any money, to creating explosive growth in your business, to living the exceptional life that you really and truly want to have. How do you make that happen? How do you get off the cycle of perpetual paradigms? Well, the first place that you can get off is right here in the unconscious. Now, that might mean that you're going to have to go through some psychotherapy, you're going to have to do some psychological changing, and as a psychologist, I know these methods work. And I know that over time, you could make the change that you want to see. But it has a price, and it's probably not what you want to pay right now. And the second place that you can get off this cycle is right here. You can change your behavior. You can stop doing what you used to do and just start doing what you want to do. For example, most people at the end of the year make a whole list of New Year's resolutions of things that they're no longer going to do. And they're serious, and they write them down, and they start the year out, and by February 15th, they're not doing them. Some of them don't even make it to February 15th. We all know people who make New Year's resolutions. I've made New Year's resolutions. The problem is that we're trying to force the change to our circumstances right here. Trying to change our behavior through force. And the problem is, we just don't believe it. Now, the final place, and the best place, and actually the easiest place to make the change is right here in your conscious mind. It's right here where we have our thoughts and our self-talk, where we talk to ourselves. This is the easiest place because this is where we can consciously think about the change. Now, you can make a decision to make this change, but how do you change? What do you do to change? Well, remember Neville's law of assumption. Anything that you persistently think about that becomes your dominant feeling is going to inevitably show up. So if we start to think differently and tell ourselves through self-talk different, the unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, will start to believe different, will start to feel different, and our circumstances will change. Right. So to reiterate, the cycle of perpetual paradigms includes your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and the reality or the outer world. And these 3 pieces combine to create the circumstances of our lives. Our thoughts, or the ideas that we think about, also generate emotions, and it is the emotions that cement those ideas and create beliefs in our subconscious mind. And as we start to believe things, then those move into becoming expectations of what we will see in our outer world. And as we start to see these things, it is what determines our behaviors, and our behaviors determine our circumstances. So ultimately, we get stuck in this cycle of perpetual paradigms, and we create more and more paradigms, or they are formed because we continue to believe. So a paradigm is a pattern of repeated behavior and beliefs. And what we want to do is find a way to get off the cycle. Now, most personal development gurus will tell you to use affirmations, and affirmations do work because it's right here. We're actually pushing it over into our conscious mind. We're changing our behavior. But see, the conscious and the subconscious, they're not going to believe if you don't have the feeling that goes with it. And a drastic shift to a new behavior is not necessarily believable to the subconscious mind. Things like, today I'm going to abandon my old habits and pick up new habits, or I'm wealthy, or I have financial abundance. Subconscious mind doesn't believe that. And probably, if you say it too many times, even as you're chanting those mantras, you will probably hear your subconscious mind say little smart comments like, yeah, right, like that's going to happen. And see, these short positive statements like mantras are great, but they don't generate the feeling and the belief that you need to cement it into the paradigms formed. Because remember, believing is seeding. Believing is seeing. So, if you really want to believe or begin to believe that you're changed, you need to use change statements that move you from where you are to where you want to be. Move you from where you are to where you want to be. And that is a different kind of language. That is a transformational language. That language says, I believe in the impossible. That language says that you can move from the impossible to the possible, and move from the possible to the probable, and move from the probable to reality. That language sets up an expectation energy, an emotion that is connected to the belief and the thought that there's a possibility of the impossible. I'm possible. I'm possibly changing. I'm possibly going to be able to do something different. That's a transitory statement. These were created by Dana Wilde in her brain training program. And what it is a verbal reality of the possibility of a new reality. It's the verbal manifestation of the possibility of a new reality. So, how do you get there? How do you get into this new place? How do you get transformed? How do you transform from where you are to where you want to be? You see, the cycle of perpetual paradigms, which we looked at earlier, says that your behaviors are going to be repeated and repeated and repeated, and any repeated behavior becomes a paradigm. So if we can identify what you really want, then we can set it up as an assumption that is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, so that its attainment is inevitable. And in order to do that, you got to use your four relays. You got to use a wish, a desire, some intention, and some passion or emotion. A wish, a desire, some intention, and some passion and an emotion. See, the four relays are the things that you really, 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 really want. That's the emotion. That's that expectation energy that we talked about, that you're going to need. That's the transformation model. That's the transformation. That's how you get from where you are to where you want to be. You use transformational statements that set it up for you to see consciously how to move from impossible to possible, so that you can start to feel that emotion that expectation energy that starts to cement it into your subconscious mind so that it then becomes a possibility of a probability, which means that you will start to expect to see it in your outside world. And the more that you start to believe that it's possible, the more that you start to believe that it's probably going to happen, the more expectation energy that's going to go with it. And guess what happens? The more that you probably believe, the possibility pushes you into this subconscious mind, attracting those missing pieces so that it becomes probable to the reality. So inside, you've got those emotions moving to expectations, which change your actions. Now watch this. Here's how you do it. You start with some transitory statements. Statements like, I'm starting to notice that things are turning around. I'm starting to notice that I'm working less, yet somehow my business is growing. It seems like I'm starting to get more sales. It seems like people are spending more money. I don't know what I'm doing differently, but seems like things are getting better. I was working so much for a while, but now I've learned how to relax and allow my business to grow. It's those tiny little small changes in your thinking which will produce the exponential results on how you think. If you want your business to grow, if you want your life to change, you've got to make those tall changes, those small changes. Impossible to possible, possible to probable, probable to reality. It's this area in here that sets up that expectation energy when you use these transitory statements to get to seeing your results. In the next course, I'm going to take you through some training to identify your limiting beliefs so that you can create transitory statements that actually specifically take you through this process, that put you in the center of your paradigms formed, that show you how to use the transformational model to transform those beliefs that you hold about your business, about your life, about your relationship, about your love. We're going to put you in the center of this transformational model and change your paradigm. In this final segment of the training, I want you to start to create your transitory statements. I want you to start to create your own transformational model using the cycle of perpetual paradigms, your transformational language, and your 4 relays. Now, I know you've noticed that I offered statements in your transitory examples like, I don't know what I'm doing differently, and it seems like, and things like I'm starting to notice. All of these are transformational languages. They open up the expectation energy. They open up the possibility of the impossible. Remember, we want you to set up that expectation energy. I want you to use transitory statements that create a verbal reality of the possibility of the impossible. And finally, I want you to set up your assumptions so that it's so persistent that it becomes your dominant feeling that the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. And the way you're going to do this is through small changes in what you're thinking. Small changes in what you're thinking by creating those transformational statements, using transformational language, and put yourself in the center of the transformational model. Consciously think about the possibility of moving from impossible to possible, and that is to use those statements. It seems like my life is changing. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I've noticed that clients are buying more. I'm not sure how this change is happening, but I notice that I don't feel so stressed anymore. I'm not clear as to how the change is happening, but I notice that I have more money. These transitory small little changes will start to create that emotion that cements that expectation of the possibility, which will move it to a probable. And then the probable is when you start to look for it in your reality. You start to notice more. You start to see more. Remember, I'm starting to notice. I'm starting to see. I'm not sure how it's happening, but those are all expectations, emotions that have been segmented to that transformational, transitory statement that's moving you in a new paradigm forward. And that is how you consciously think. Consciously decide what you think. Because believing truly is seeing. So let's review. What are you going to do? Number one, you're going to become aware of the thoughts and ideas that you repeatedly think, that paradigm. And then you're going to consciously decide to change what you think about. Consciously decide. You're going to create transitory statements that you can use to show the tiny incremental changes that you see as a result of moving from the impossible to the impossible to the possible, so that you get that emotional joy. You know that spark that you get when you expect to see something? You're going to set yourself up for it. You're going to start to expect to see it. And when you start to expect to see it, that energy starts to build up, and you get to move from the possible to the probable. And then you start to talk about what's probably going to happen. And number three, you're going to use that transformational language to shift how you think. And finally, number four, you're going to feel that expectational energy build up inside. So you're going to create your wish, your desire, your intention, and your passion around what you expect to see in your life. And using those small incremental changes in your transitory statements, we're going to move you to a new reality. This has been exercise 1 in your training. I'm so excited that you chose me to help you change. And remember, believing is seeing. So change what you think so you can change how you think and get the results you want. I'm Sakira Jackson, your business doctor and CEO of Brain Power Consulting. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'll see you in the next exercise.